I couldn't find anything else I wanted to do. I had probably 30 different jobs, and I just kept quitting or I'd get fired. And I decided I was a terrible employee and maybe I should try to start my own business and see what would happen there.
The following is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that helps you get the job, manage the job, and get credit.
Welcome to Winning on Main Street. I'm Gordon Henry. The American economy is driven by small business, local business people who like to work for themselves and build something successful. And today we're fortunate to be speaking with Heather Saffer, founder of Dollop Gourmet, who appeared on Shark Tank. Heather will be appearing at the Thrive Connect 20 conference in November, and we're fortunate that she stopped by today to speak with us at Winning on Main Street. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you. And, I have to say, we've done dozens of these interviews on Winning on Main Street, and you're right at the top of my list of ones that I'm most excited about because I am a Shark Tank fanatic.
Well, I hope to live up to your hype then.
Okay. Well, let's get started. I'm going to start way back at the beginning. You grew up, I believe, in Rochester or that area. What was your childhood like?
I would say my childhood was pretty normal, average. My parents, they got divorced, but not until I was like 24. So I had a kind of typical childhood. My mom was a teacher. I have a brother who's a year older than me, and my dad worked at Kodak. Everyone worked at Kodak in Rochester back then. So it was pretty normal. I would say there were no entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't know anything about business, and I struggled a lot when I was a teenager. I had depression, anxiety, but I couldn't find anything I was good at. And I tried everything. My parents were great and, letting me try different things. So putting me in different classes and letting me try different sports. And there was just nothing I really excelled at.
So you became an entrepreneur. What would you say was the spark or the preparation that got you into entrepreneurship?
The spark was that I couldn't find anything else I wanted to do. I had probably 30 different jobs, and I just kept quitting or I'd get fired. And I decided I was a terrible employee and maybe I should try to start my own business and see what would happen there.
Okay. So you went into baking, right?
I did. I had never really baked before. My mom didn't bake. We made cookies once for Hanukkah one year and we burnt them. They weren't even from scratch. They were from like the Pillsbury dough roll that you just put in the oven. And so I didn't know anything about baking. And but I knew that I liked eating desserts. And so and that cupcakes were becoming really popular. It was a niche that was really starting to grow. This was during the recession, and I just thought, you know what, I might not be able to make a cupcake right now, but I sure know what a good cupcake tastes like. So I think let me just try this and see what happens.
Okay, so you started Dollop Gourmet around that time?
My first business was called the Cupcake Dreamery. And I started that by doing I did a lot of donations at first till I found a kitchen space to rent, and then did a lot of events, weddings, showers. And then this is my crash and burn story. I entrusted the wrong person. Everything went downhill. He wound up being a con artist. He went to prison, and I had to start over. So that's when Dollop Gourmet was born, when I had to start over.
The con artist who went to prison was your business partner?
He wasn't a business partner. I had hired him sort of as a manager and an
Okay.
investor. And again, I didn't know anything about business. There were no role models for me growing up.
Mm.
And so I wasn't on top of my banking. I didn't even know that he had stolen my checkbook and he was writing himself checks
Mm.
and he was pocketing all the cash that came in. Like I didn't know how to do any of these things. And so yeah, it just went downhill quickly.
Wow. So when did you get the idea to try to get on TV and apply for money with Shark Tank?
Well, first, when I started over and I started Dollop Gourmet again, I got an actual retail storefront. So I rented space, I built out a kitchen, and I decided I wanted to get on Cupcake Wars on Food Network. So
Mm.
that was kind of my first foray into TV, national TV. And so I wound up getting on the show and I won Cupcake Wars. And and so after that, it was kind of like, okay, well, what's next, right? There's always a what's next, what's next. I got to do something bigger, better, what's next. And Shark Tank was really picking up steam. That was kind of the next TV show that I set my sights on.
Okay. And coming out of the Cupcake Wars TV show appearance, what did you get out of that, or what was the result of that appearance?
That was huge. It was huge for business. I had lines around the block of my
Mm.
bakery.
Mm.
I mean, we were doing a ton of business. I was doing a lot of local news. I was getting in, other national publications. I decided I wanted to write a cookbook, and doing Cupcake Wars helped me get my first book deal,
Mm.
which then helped me get into like People Magazine
Wow.
and Forbes and Huffington Post, and so all these publications kind of stemmed from Cupcake Wars, really.
So you are pretty comfortable, I guess, in front of audiences. I mean, you were on Cupcake Wars and you felt good enough. You went into Shark Tank. You're kind of naturally comfortable in front of large crowds or TV cameras.
I'm definitely comfortable. I like to say I'm more comfortable in front of TV cameras than in front of people when there's no TV cameras.
That's pretty
So
funny.
yeah.
Okay. So then, wanting to do something bigger and better than Cupcake Wars, you applied for Shark Tank. So here's where I really want the gory details, because I've watched this show for years and years with my kids, raised my kids watching Shark Tank. And, you kind of always wonder, what's it like trying to get on the show? Sometimes you hear applicants say it took me years to get on the show. Did it take you years? Was it really hard? What was it like?
I wouldn't say it took me years. I do recall applying one year and not hearing anything back. And that was before I launched the frosting line. So I was kind of okay with it because I didn't really have anything. It was just kind of a shot in the dark, just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. But then when I seriously applied, I heard back, but it was a very lengthy process between all of the video submissions you have to send and dealing with the producers. And then when they decided that they wanted to have me on the show, I was supposed to film in June because they filmed twice, June and September. And I was waiting for the call to receive my plane ticket, and I got the call from the producer. But instead of her telling me that I was getting my plane ticket, she told me that they weren't going to have me on and I could try again for September.
Mm.
So it was a roller coaster of a process. And there was no guarantee along the way that you were going to get to LA. And then once you're in LA, there's no guarantee that you're going to film. And then if you do film, there's no guarantee that it's going to air.
So they film all the episodes for the year in two sort of sessions, as you described. What was it, July, September?
Yeah, it's usually like June, July, and then
June, July, and
September,
September. Uh-huh.
October.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering partly because guys like Mark live in Dallas, or Kevin, I think, lives in Boston. And so you think, okay, how could they be out in LA all the time? That's the answer. They go for one period, film a bunch of things, and then go home.
Yeah, I think they film it all in a week's time or 2 weeks time. And so
Wow.
once they bring out 20 different entrepreneurs to film, but they don't have time for all of them. So even if you're out there, you could be sitting in your green room and all of a sudden it's day 3 of filming and it's 7 p.m. and they run out of time. And that happened to someone that was filming when I was filming and he didn't get to film. So.
Wow, that must be disappointing. So nonetheless, you did get selected, obviously, and you did get to actually appear. And just describe when you come out of those doors and you walk down that, entryway and you're standing there, is your heart beating? Are you scared? What was the sensation like? You're on national TV?
Yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking. I don't remember thinking so much about the cameras and being filmed, especially when you have a food product. Your main concern is just like you want them to like the taste of it, because taste is so subjective. Like you don't know. So that was my biggest concern. I was kind of like, just please like it. Like, this is going nowhere fast if they don't like it. So you're definitely nervous, and that you have to be aware of everything that comes out of your mouth, because there's no stopping and starting again. Like they never yell cut. So it's one long stream, and everything you say is fair game for them to use.
That was another question, because you see many of the contestants really smooth, well produced, it all seems to be well rehearsed and it goes so well. You're like, as a viewer, you're thinking they must have done a couple of takes of that. They couldn't get that all in one take, but you're saying it's just one take, huh?
It's one take. I mean, it's long. I think I was in there for about 45 minutes. Some people are in there for a couple hours. So it's definitely highly edited. A lot of it is pieced together and edited out. But the key is that anything that comes out of your mouth, they can use. So when you get out there, you don't want to, just start blabbing, because anything you say could make the final cut, and you could think, well, I wish I hadn't said that. So it's really, I was very conscious of taking my time and listening more than I talked.
So as I understand it, you got an offer from Barbara Corcoran. Is that right?
Yeah, I got an offer from Barbara and from Kevin, and I decided to go with the offer. I countered her once, and then I decided to go with Barbara's offer.
Okay. Which was for how much money?
$75,000, I believe.
Okay. Do you remember what percentage of your company you were giving up to her?
I was going in for $75,000 for 20%, and she offered the $75,000 for 30%. And going in, I knew that I wanted to, if I got an offer, I knew I wanted to counter once, because I didn't want it to look like I was just desperate and I would take whatever was thrown at me. But I also didn't want to be argumentative, so I didn't want to go back and forth. So when she offered the $75,000 for 30%, I thought in my head, I'm like, I gotta counter something. So I countered back the 25%, and she accepted that.
Right. Okay, well, this is fascinating, and we're going to take a quick break now with Heather Saffer, and when we come back, we're going to hear about what happened next after you accepted the offer from Barbara Corcoran. We'll be right back.
Success is a function of resilience over failure. You will get fired. People you love will die. You will have injustice everywhere in the corporate world. Your ability to dust up after you've been beamed in the face, get up and try again is the key to success. People think success looks like this. It doesn't. It looks like that. I've had businesses go bankrupt, lost people I loved, was divorced by the time I was 35. I've had some real setbacks. And if I look at my success, it's a function of the fact that I was always willing to mourn and then move on and get back up.
All right, we're back having a conversation with Heather Saffer of Dollop Gourmet, who was a Shark Tank appearance and got an offer from Barbara Corcoran. She was just explaining $75,000 for 25%. So you accepted Barbara's offer. What happened next after you accepted the offer?
You mean when I went home?
Yeah.
So when I went home, I didn't hear anything for a while. I was very excited. And when I did finally hear from Barbara's point person, there was a lot of due diligence. And due diligence went back and forth for, I would say, 4 to 5 months. And at the end of the day, I decided it wasn't a great fit and that I didn't want to move forward with the offer.
Okay. Anything in particular? Did you meet Barbara? Was it just not good chemistry? What was the issue?
I didn't meet Barbara. I didn't hear from her personally at all. I only heard from her point person, who was the nicest guy in the world, really nice guy. But a lot of it, every time I asked kind of a strategic question about the food industry, packaged goods, he said that he would ask their other brands. And once you've been on Shark Tank, like the other entrepreneurs is a pretty tight-knit group. So I know a lot of Shark Tank entrepreneurs and we help each other. And it's kind of like a mastermind group. We're all in really close touch. So I was thinking I know your other brands. I can ask them myself anyway. And so it just, and the $75,000 wasn't going to be enough money. It's not really a lot of money in the food space, in the CPG space. So it wasn't really going to move the needle. And so I just decided that it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Wow. So you backed out of the deal, so to speak. And what'd you do next?
What did I do next? Well, I focused on fulfilling the orders. Once you find out that it's going to air, you don't have a whole lot of time to prepare and for your air date, because you only get a couple weeks notice. So that was my immediate focus after that.
Did sales explode after your appearance on the show? Sales of Dollop Gourmet exploded?
They did. I mean, the Shark Tank effect is real. Once it airs, you get a huge influx of orders and emails and phone calls. It's legit. It is a lot of business afterwards.
Yeah. So that all seems pretty good. So you kept, you had a lot of orders coming in, and then what happened after that? Because you got out of the company somehow. Am I correct? Did you sell the company?
I did. I sold the company. So I sold the company last year. So after Shark Tank, I still was running the company for 3 years. So I kept expanding, kept leveraging the Shark Tank to get more publicity. I got my second book deal, so I wrote my second cookbook. Wow. And got into more stores. And then I did take some more investors, my first investors. I got into an accelerator program in New York City and got investors out of that. And then I decided I was building the brand for, a solid 10 years. And I just was ready to move on and do something different. So there's a Canadian company that's been making icings and glazes for 4 decades. And they had been following my story over the years. And so we were able to strike a deal, and I'm still working with Dollop, and the owner of the company. We've become pretty good friends. So it's been a good transition.
Fantastic. So you sold the company to the Canadians, and you've continued that relationship, but you moved on to other things. All sounds really good. And you've got 2 cookbooks you've written. What's next for Heather Saffer?
That's the magic question. To be quite honest, I'm still trying to figure out what my next big move is. I'm doing a lot of speaking and some consulting, and I created a passion project to use my artwork. I'm doing a lot of artwork to raise money for animal rescues, and so that's been my main focus lately. But I haven't kind of taken a deep dive into a new venture as of yet.
As you look back at this, very successful run you had appearing on the Cupcake Wars and then especially on Shark Tank, do you have any other, or should I say, do you have any tips for other people who would want to do something similar, particularly to get on Shark Tank? What would you say to somebody who wants to be on Shark Tank and thinks it's too intimidating, too difficult?
Apply. A lot of people approach me and they ask, they want to have a conversation. They're thinking about applying to be on Shark Tank. And my response is usually there's no conversation to have with you. Like, just apply. If you get to the next step of, auditioning and preparing for an audition, then I can have a conversation with you. But there's no harm in just applying. There's nothing to think about, really. Like, you just apply and then see what happens.
Right. And looking back at the whole experience, the delays, the time in getting there, getting the offer and ultimately not accepting or working with Barbara, do you look back on it and say that was the greatest thing, or, what's your view of it looking back?
I look back on it and it was a great experience. Like, Shark Tank is an amazing experience. If anyone, I don't know why anyone would not do it. I would say, like, if the producers want you to do it, do it. Like, there's really, and I say that coming from a place though also that I had a good performance. Like, the Sharks were very complimentary. Nothing went wrong. It went as well as I could have ever hoped it to go. So I think, if anyone has the opportunity, they should do it. It was very stressful. I do remember I was very stressed. Like, it wasn't a laid back thing, right? I was depressed. I was anxious. I was elated at times. Like, it was an emotional roller coaster.
Do you have any other life lessons to share as an entrepreneur? Many of the people who listen to this show are entrepreneurs and they're just trying to figure it out. And you're someone who, by your own admission, you thought you were a bad employee, went through 30 jobs, and then you kind of started your entrepreneurial career because I guess you couldn't figure out what else to do. But here we are 10, 15 years later, big success. What do you think, looking back, you wish you would have known to become a successful entrepreneur?
Oh, I think there are so many things that I wish I would have known. I would say that, like, one thing that I think is really important and that I, think about now today, because it's 10 years later and I'm kind of back in that what's next stage is, when you find something that you're really passionate about and you can't stop thinking about, and it doesn't feel like work. And I know people say that all the time, but it's something that you want to be doing. Like, you will pass on going out, for dinner with friends because you want to be working on what you're working on. Like, go with it. Just keep going with it. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to try to get publicity. Just, again, like, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. That's kind of what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. One last question. We always like to know a little bit more about the personal side of the entrepreneur beyond the business. When you're not writing cookbooks, appearing on TV, speaking to magazines or podcasters, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I exercise. I like going to CrossFit. I'm obsessed with my dog. I like to draw, write poetry, and drink wine and eat desserts.
Sounds pretty good. I guess if you're in the Dollop Gourmet business, you got to be eating some desserts now and then, right?
I honestly, I rarely bake anymore, but I have dessert every single night. Like, I do love dessert.
Sounds good. Well, with COVID-19, you got to keep your spirits up. So what's better than eating dessert every night?
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Well, this has been awesome speaking to you. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
And we are excited again to have you speaking at Thrive Connect 20, which is coming up November 10th and 11th. And for you listeners out there, if you enjoyed this program, please subscribe to our podcast, recommend it to a friend or fellow entrepreneur. And if you want to sign up to attend virtually Thrive Connect 20, go to Thrive, that's thryv.com/connect, and you can sign up today. And so we are going to sign off. I want to thank Heather Saffer again for her time. We're Winning on Main Street. We speak each week with a successful entrepreneur, and tune in next week for another great entrepreneurial conversation. Again, this is Gordon Henry. Thanks for listening. Signing off.